Today, I wanted to talk about my thoughts on Lamy's new pen, which is the Ideos. It's this pen here. It's always an exciting day when Lamy comes out with a new pen. What is exciting for me, I have a soft spot for Lamy. My first fountain pen, which I bought in 2013, was this Lamy Safari. And since then, I've always been a Lamy fan, and it's not every day that they come out with a new pen. So I wanted to walk you through what this pen is like, give you an overview of where I think it fits within the Lamy lineup, and then I'll give you some thoughts in terms of whether I think it's a successful offering or not. But first, let's take a look at this pen. This pen is a very unique design. It's got this teardrop profile, which I didn't actually realize in the pictures. Maybe I was just not paying attention, but this is a very pronounced teardrop profile, as you can see from the top. And because of the teardrop, it has this offset clip because there's really no other place you can put the clip. So the clip is sort of on this sort of lopsided section of the pen. It has very discreet Lamy branding, very on brand. And then when you open it, for Lamy fans, this section will look very familiar. It looks similar to what's on the Lamy Studio, the chrome sections that are on the Lamy Studio. It comes with a steel nib, which I'll show you in a minute. I put a 14 karat nib on this. The other unique feature of this Lamy is that the section sort of doesn't twist off, but it sort of locks into place. So you can see it has these metal shapes here that fit within the barrel. And what you do is you just line this up like this, and then it snaps into place, which is very, very satisfying. And then the way this fits, it's very reminiscent of a Lamy Studio. So this is a Studio. So you see how this mechanism sounds very familiar. It's actually got a very similar shape down here. So the cap locks into place very similar to how a Studio works. So I think overall, this is a fairly interesting design. It's very well balanced. It's a pretty good width for my hands. I've always found the Safari section, I've never minded the shape, how it forces your hand into that triangle section. What I've not really enjoyed about the Safari and the All-Star is that the section is a bit narrow. So I think this pen fixes that. It's a much more substantial section, and I don't mind the fact that it's a triangle shape. I will say the one part of this pen that I feel from a design perspective is a bit of a failure is the back here. So what they've done here is they've added this plastic, rubber, whatever this material is, thing back here so that you can post the pen. There's actually some sort of manufacturing defect on mine. Mine actually doesn't post. I can't get it on past this, but you can see that if you were to get it on, this is a really, really long pen. I feel like this is a bit unnecessary from a design perspective. I mean, this pen is long enough to where, personally, I would have preferred if they just didn't do this ugly bit back here and just did something, if they ended the pen kind of like how they did this finial here. I think this looks fairly attractive. If the back looked like that and the pen couldn't be posted, I think that would work better. But otherwise, I think this is a very attractive design, and it's a very comfortable pen to use. The other disappointment that I have with this pen is not so much from a design perspective. It's more just a decision that Lamy made. I alluded to the fact that it came with a different nib. Lamy equips this pen with the same nib as the Ion, whatever that pen is called, this one. If you watch my previous video, you know I'm a fan of this pen. However, that nib looks like this. So you can see it's a bit of a different shape than the regular Lamy nib. And I feel like Lamy did that just to make the pen a little bit different than the other pens in their lineup. There's no real other good reason that I can think of why they would do that. The problem is Lamy doesn't have a 14 karat gold nib that's that shape. Their 14 karat gold nibs are the shape of other Lamy nibs, which means that I don't think Lamy will offer this pen from the factory with a 14 karat with a gold nib, because they don't make a gold nib in the shape that it comes in, and I think that's a bit of a disappointment, because I think Lamy's trying to go with a more premium price point for this pen, pricing it above pens like the Aeon and the Studio, and the fact that they're not going to offer a gold nib option is a bit of a disappointment for me. But anyway, that's a quick overview of the pen. Let me talk about why it's priced the way it is and where it fits within the Lamy lineup. So I looked at prices for Lamy pens just this morning, just to get a market price of where everything is. So this pen currently retails for around $110. I think the MSRP is a bit higher, but the street price is around $110. And where it fits in, so Lamy has, of course, the Safari for $30, All-Star for about $40. Then there's the Luxe, which is just a prettied up version of the All-Star, around $50. Then comes the Aeon or Ion. This pen is $60. Then there is the Studio. Not this particular Studio, this is a bit more of a premium finish, but normal Studios are around $80. And then comes this Ideos, which is, like I mentioned earlier, $110. And then after this, there's actually a pen called the Lamy Scala. I have one. I have no idea where I put it, but that retails for $140 with the steel nib, and over $200 with the gold nib, and that's sort of the last steel, the most expensive steel nib pen from Lamy, basically the $140 steel nib Scala. And then after the Scalas, there's pens like the Lamy 2000, which is more in the $200 price range. So you can see why Lamy introduced this pen. There was arguably a spot in the market from a price point perspective that they could offer this pen. The other reason that I think Lamy offered this pen is because I feel like, and this is just my personal opinion, but when I think about the Lamy lineup, I feel like it's a collection of a couple very iconic pens like the Safari and the All-Star and pens that look like this. Also, of course, the Lamy 2000, one of the most iconic pens in the fountain pen industry. And some can argue, even the Studio has grown, not to the level of the Safari or the 2000, but it's also a very recognizable, popular design. So Lamy has a couple very popular, iconic pens in the lineup, but a bunch of other pens that are more or less forgotten about. I'm sure, when I look at the Lamy lineup, there's pens that I forget existed. The Scala, for example, is one, the CP1, and there's just a series of pens, the Emporium, which I think Lamy tries to market as their flagship pen, I think rather unsuccessfully. And I feel like Lamy has been on a mission lately to try to add more iconic pens to their lineup. A couple years ago, they came out with this, the Aeon, and I think there were some high hopes that this would become another iconic pen for Lamy. I don't know what sales figures look like, but my sense is that this has not been as successful as maybe Lamy would have liked. And I feel like this is another pen or um, another try attempt for Lamy to create something that's iconic. And I feel like they went out of their way to make a shape that is unique. The clip is unique for Lamy. The way the section and the barrel and the section come together is unique, and I feel like they've tried really hard to make a pen that's very different and hopefully will be iconic. I personally think, while I like this pen, and to answer the question of whether it's worth it, I do think from a pricing perspective, if you accept the fact that the studio is $80, and if you think the studio is worth the $80 price point, so if you start with that, then I do think the Ideos is worth the $110 price point, because it does offer some noticeable upgrades from the studio. So for example, the clip is better, this shape is unique and probably more complicated and expensive to make. The barrel and the section, that locking mechanism is very unique. So I do think from a pricing perspective, it does make sense at $110. Do I think it will be a runaway success and a future icon? I personally don't, because I feel like the design is not completely thought out. I really don't like the way the back looks, and I do think this pen would look a lot better if it came from the factory like this, with the 14 karat nib, even if it was a little bit more expensive. I think this look just looks a lot nicer than how it actually comes. Okay, so that's my thoughts, and finally I'll just give you a quick sense of how it writes. Obviously this isn't really going to be super representative since I swapped the nib, but you can see a bit of how this pen sort of sits in the hand and how it performs. I think fittingly I equipped this with an Oblique Medium nib. Since this is a lopsided pen, I chose a lopsided nib. So this is the Lamy Ideos, and this is an Oblique Medium, and this is Waterman Serenity Blue. Lamy's OM nibs are very, very smooth, and they write a bit like an architect nib, which the horizontal stroke is thicker than the vertical, so that makes it a bit fun. My problem with this pen is at $110, I feel like it's a bit unfinished, like I said earlier, and to make it something that I would like, I had to buy the upgraded nib, which is almost as expensive as the pen. In full disclosure, I did buy this on a Black Friday sale, so it was about 50% off, so that definitely made it more stomachable. Overall, I think if you're okay with the steel nib, if you're okay with how the Lamy Ion nib writes, I think this is a pretty fair value for $110, like I said earlier. And as I walk through, it's very clear to see why they price the pen the way it does and sort of where it fits within the Lamy lineup. It's very clear where the positioning is, so I think that makes sense. But I do wish there were a few design issues that were addressed to make this pen even better. But hopefully that was fun and useful, and happy holidays. Thank you.